Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. The new season is upon us. 38 weeks left to go. How was your summer? Did you take a break from football? Did you miss it too much? I watched a lot of football, and I don't know. I feel bad for these players because I never get tired of watching them. And I know it's just going to take a toll on their body. I feel bad, especially for Chelsea players and those who went into the World Club competition. Maybe Man City, but they didn't go too far. But anyway, I'm rambling. Are you ready for the new season? So let's get into it. First of all, right off the bat, Fantasy has made a couple of changes, and this season is going to be much more explosive point-wise than ever before because they have given us many more free chips. And if you are interested in trying to figure out what the new features are of this season, I dedicated a whole podcast to that. And that is the episode before this one. So if you just look in the episode list before this, you will find it there. I will continually make references to it, but if you want a dedicated episode about it, it is the one before that. Please listen to it. Fantasy kicks off on August 15, which is 2 days from now. I'm sure you've been tinkering with your teams endlessly since the teams were announced in July, or rather since fantasy was made open again in July. I know I have, and I'm honestly grateful that the season is about to start because I need to close this section. I just need this to end. So, just to gloss over the changes, there are 2 sets of wildcard, free hit, triple captain, and bench boost this season. So you can plan to have a first half of the campaign and the second half of the campaign. Defensive contributions will now matter. So players like Caicedo are now more important than they ever have been. And therefore, you do not only need to focus on wingbacks in the defensive position, and you don't need to avoid the Caicedos of the world. There will be Africa Cup this season, and therefore your teams will be affected. Should you have African players? Most of us will have Salah. First of all, let's just get one thing straight. If you do not start this season with Salah, I don't know what you're doing. He broke the FPL record last season. Unless you literally hate him individually or Liverpool, and if you hate Liverpool, you're not understanding how to play this game. This game is not about clubs, it's about players. And please, the competition. If you fail to choose the best players, you are not being competitive. But if you're playing for fun or for some other purpose, I guess that's fine. So if you will have Salah, him and the other African players will be away from Gameweek 17, should they be chosen or should they be fit to go. And because of that, we will get 5 free transfers. So if you are wise, do this. Make sure by Gameweek 16 you have 0 transfers left. So that by the time Gameweek 17 comes, you'll be given 5 free transfers. Now, this and other changes are what I discussed in the previous episode. I'm just giving you the highlights. Now, as you plan, I need you to think about which teams are in Europe, which teams aren't in Europe. This always has a factor in performance. When a team plays in Europe and they come back home, that weekend they tend to perform less. Like Newcastle did it the previous seasons. Aston Villa struggled a bit. Wolves struggled. Nottingham Forest may struggle this season. And that's why I'm bringing this up. Of course, I'm giving a general overview. So now, as you make your teams, plan for double and blank game weeks, cup weekends, and watch which teams from the English competition go further in the European competitions, because those are the teams that will create double game weeks, and those are the teams that may have varying performance and a lot of squad rotation. Now, I'm going to read to you the top performing players, or at least the top 5 performing players in each position last season. Starting with the goalkeepers, Pickford was the best goalkeeper. Sells from Forest was the second. Raya was the third. Henderson was the fourth. And Sanchez from Chelsea was the 5th. Now, if you choose any of those players this season, you're either choosing somebody who's 5.5 or 5.0. So there's not much of a point gap, if you will. When it comes to defenders, Vardiol was first, 153. Milenkovic, 145. Van Dijk, 143. Munoz from Crystal Palace, 142. Kerkez, 134. Those are the top 5 defenders from the FPL last season. And all of them are either 5.5 or 6.0. With his record-breaking season, Mo Salah had 344 points last season. Number 2 was Mbomo, 236 points. Palmer, 214 points. Cunha, 178 points. Bruno Fernandes, 174 points. I want you to note that Mbomo and Cunha are now Manchester United players, and meaning Manchester United now has 3 of the best performing midfielders last season. So there's reason to be optimistic about them, but also how will they work together and who will eat into whose points. That will be something to observe. When it comes to forwards, Isak was number 1 with 211. Wood was second with 200 points. Bowen, whose position has now been changed to forward, 193 points. Watkins, 186 points. Wissa, 185 points. The reason I've started off with this is to show you who performed best last season. In case you think history will repeat itself, you know who the top 5 players in each position are. In case you're struggling, this is an easy way to say, this guy did well last season, let's try him. Now, another way you might want to choose players is by looking at what people have already done. And this is by the percentage ownership of players. And I'm going to read to you the top 5 positions as of August 13, 2025. So in goalkeepers, Dubravka has been chosen by 27.8% of the people. He is 4.0. He has moved to Burnley from Newcastle. That's what makes him interesting. Kelleher moved from Liverpool to Burnley. He is 4.5 and has been chosen by 20.6 people. Sells has been chosen by 19.8% of people. He is 5.0. Sanchez, Chelsea keeper, has been chosen by 19.5% of people. And Raya has been chosen by 17.4% of people. So in case you're looking for a cheap keeper who you believe will play, Kelleher and Dubravka will be good. They're 4.0 and 4.5 respectfully, and they should be given a chance, at least as your second chance keeper, second choice. When it comes to defenders, Wan-Bissaka has been chosen by 29.6% of people. Frimpong, 29.5%. He's a new Liverpool player who is replacing Trent. Konsa, who is 4.5%, has been chosen by 24.2% of people. Wan-Bissaka is 4.5%, Frimpong is 6.0%. Virgil van Dijk is 4th, chosen by 24% of people. He is 6.0%. And in number 5, we have Van de Ven from Spurs. He has been chosen by 21.9 people. When it comes to midfielders, I can tell you for free that the Club World Championship has inspired a lot of people. Palmer is a top selected player with 58% of all managers choosing him. Number 2 is Salah, 53.6%. Palmer is 10.5%, Salah is 53.6%, and he is 14.5%. Number 3 is Florian Wirtz, 8.5%, 34.5%. Kudus is number 4, 6.5%, 23.8%. Bruno Fernandes, or Finange, 9.0%, 18.2%. So clearly you can see that Florian Wirtz, his reputation has preceded him, and Palmer the same. Because honestly, Salah should be your first choice. He should be your first choice. That's all. That's true. When it comes to forwards, João Pedro at 7.5 is a top selected player with 54.6%. He has had a strong performance since he joined Chelsea. In the Club World Championship and pre-season, he has been maybe the most impressive player in this off-summer. 7.5 is not a bad price. 54.6. Remember that he has competition with Nicholas Jackson and Liam Delap. We don't know who's number 1. We don't know how this squad rotation will go. We don't know if Maresca will let Nicholas Jackson lose his position. So in that way, it's a bit of a gamble, but we shall see. He is the best performing striker right now, and let's see if that will be rewarded with stats. Gyökeres is the second most selected forward, and it is at 25.9. Are you seeing the drop off? More than half. He is 9.0, 25.9%. Everybody knows who Gyökeres is. Let's see if he will just hit the road running. Haaland comes in third. He's 14.0 and 22.5%. I know many people will not choose him because of the end of the season, but my argument for Haaland is this. Just do your own research. Just look at how he has begun each of his seasons. Just look at how he has begun, not at how he has finished. And then I'll ask you, are we in the middle of the season or are we at the beginning of the season? Because your team is not the team that you're going to keep for the rest of the season. This is just the team that starts. And Haaland starts well. Moving on, number 4, Ollie Watkins. 9.0, 21.5%. Watkins has been good and he has been solid. I have nothing to add to that. Owen has had his position changed. He is 8.0 and he has been selected by 19%. And in case you're wondering where Isak is, he's 6th. And given his current situation where he's trying to go to Liverpool and force a transfer, he may not be a good choice to start with. If the transfer fails, he will definitely be reintegrated into the team, but he may not start this weekend. Now, I'm going to read to you another list. And this list is the most goal involvements since the start of last season. So this is a combination of goals and assists since the start of last season. Number 1 is Cole Palmer. He has 28 goals and 16 assists, making him have 44 goal contribution, or rather goal involvements. Number 2 is Haaland. He has 42 goal involvements. Number 3 is Ollie Watkins. He has 38 goal involvements. Number 4 is Mo Salah, who has 36 goal involvements. Number 5 is Saka, who has 34 goal involvements. Sorry, I've said it already. And then number 6 is Son, who has left. May he be well. Foden, 27. Bowen, 26. Nicholas Jackson, 26. Isak, 25. Solanke, 25. Kai Havertz, 25. And this is since the start of last season. And this is just to give you another way to think about it. People who contribute in terms of goals and assists. Now, defenders and defensive midfielders will be measured with the CBIT, which is clean sheets, blocks, interceptions, and tackles. CBIT. Based on last season's defenders, Tarkowski, Hillman, Murillo, Collins, Richards, Williams, Totti, and Anderson would be one of the better performing defenders from last season. And if you note, these are not people that were popular really. Maybe Tarkowski was, and Murillo maybe. But this new dimension adds more credibility to choosing them. So just think about when you're choosing a defender now, you have to think about, does he get clean sheets? Does he make tackles? Does he make interceptions? Does he block? Like those goal-saving clearances? It makes you look at the defense differently. In case you're wondering what I said again, let me read out the best from last season. So Branthwaite, Milankovic, Nico Williams, Lacroix, Tarkowski, Van Dijk, Gay, in that order. And I want you to note that Caicedo is, of course, in midfield a king. And João Palhinha is back, not at Fulham, but at Spurs. And this might transform their midfield. And he will definitely be a leader in the CBIT. In case you're wondering who the top performers are in preseason, Harry Wilson, 5 goals, 1 assist. Mateta, 4 goals, 1 assist. Harry Wilson is just 5. Mateta is 7.5. Danny Welbeck has scored 4 goals. Pirot from Leeds has scored 4 goals. Darwin Núñez has scored 4 goals, but he has been let go of. Owen, 2 goals, 2 assists. Yassine Ayari, I remember this guy coming out of nowhere in Brighton last season. He has got 2 goals, 2 assists. Daniel Marlon from Villa, 1 goal, 3 assists. This might be something you want to consider. There are only 5 players who gained over 200 points last season. Record breaker Mo Salah with 344, Brian Bumo with 236, Cole Palmer with 214, Isak with 211, and Chris Wood with 200. I'm just mentioning that because I want you to know who the top 5 most consistent players were last season, in case that is one way you will be looking to choose players. Now, one of the ways we like to take advantage of FPL is by looking for players who have been changed their position, meaning like, let's say, a left back who plays as a winger or a winger who plays as a left back. Well, that's not so profitable. But anyway, somebody who's regarded as a lower position but plays a higher position. So there have been a few position changes, and let me tell you who they are. Miles Lewis-Kelly has been changed from a midfielder to defender. So if he ever ends up in the midfield again, that'll be great for us. Keane Lewis-Potter has been changed from a midfielder to a defender. Iliman Ndiaye has been changed from a forward to a midfielder. If he has a great season, he will be a great find. Ryan Sessegnon has been moved from a defender to a midfielder. Oh, that's unfortunate. I really enjoyed his position last year. Cody Gakpo has been changed from a forward to a midfielder. Mamouche, forward to midfielder. I like this one actually. Matthias Nunes, midfielder to defender. He sucks as defender, but anyway. And I doubt he will play as much. Anyway, I hope it works out. Nico Riley moved from a midfielder to defender. Matheus Cunha moved from forward to midfielder. If he has a great season, that would be amazing. Bowen has been moved from a midfielder to a forward. I don't like this because you get more points when you score as a midfielder. Gomez moved from a midfielder to a defender. I'm not even sure which Gomez this is. Ricardo Gomez. Midfielder to defender. So in case you want to use these players, now you know. Now, the most expensive players this season are Salah, 14.5, Haaland, 14.0. He should be 13.5 or 13. Isak, 10.5, Palmer, 10.5, Saka, 10.0, Bruno Fernandes, 9.0, Ollie Watkins, 9.0, Verts, 8.5, Mamouche, 8.5, and Son, 8.5, who's no longer in the game. Now, before the season, during the transfer window, a lot of teams have changed. They have added and lost players. And there's some teams that look more encouraging than others. There's some individual players who are more interesting than others, and vice versa. There's some teams that look weaker and therefore a little bit less exciting. For example, when I look at Bournemouth, they lost Zabarani and Huijsen, 2 of their top centre-backs. Of course, they still have Senesi, and so they'll probably still be okay. But those are big losses, and it'll be interesting to see how they cope. And they lost Kerkez as well. So they've lost 3 out of their 4 starting defenders. That will definitely have an impact on their defense. So I would, for example, encourage you to not be so keen on Bournemouth defenders to begin with. They might be fine. Iraola is a good manager, but we just don't know who they have yet and how they will adapt. Arsenal have signed Gyökeres, Zubimendi, and Mosquera. Those are the 3 top signings they have. That makes their team look a little bit more stable. It seems like they have addressed problem areas. They have signed Madueke as well, so Arsenal look encouraging. Aston Villa didn't get Rashford back, didn't keep Mr. Asensio. So suddenly they're not looking as strong as it did towards the end of the season. So what does that mean? Martinez also is looking a bit injured. What does that mean? Is their defense going to be the same? Is their attack going to be the same? But Mullen has been playing well. Maybe there's reason to be optimistic. Brentford have lost their manager. They've lost Bomo. They've lost one of the guards in Nogard. It makes me feel a bit anxious when thinking about them. I want to bring Collins into my team because he played virtually the whole of last season. And with this new CBIT, he is a good candidate. But they have lost players and they haven't quite replaced them with the same level of quality. And their manager is also an unknown. So I am keeping off Brentford because I don't know what to expect from them. Wissa looks like he wants to go. It's not a good situation right now. Brighton are a different case in that they've lost Estupinian, they've lost João Pedro. Honestly, they could lose the whole team and I wouldn't be concerned because they always seem to have somebody who performs, and there's always a new player. They've sold João Pedro, they've sold Estupinian, they've sold Adingra, but I promise you, there will be some guy in the next 2-3 weeks who will just show up and will make us forget that there are people missing. Especially if they manage to replace Caicedo finally, they'll be super solid. Burnley, I believe they're prime candidates to go down. They've got a guy called Esteve that everyone's really excited about, so keep an eye out for that. Chelsea have had a great preseason, a great end to the season, winning the World Club Championship, winning the European Cup, and they are strong candidates. They have a strong squad. It feels more rounded. It feels like they're ready to compete at all levels. So with them outside Palma, figuring out the rotation will be interesting. I'm thinking Neto will be a good candidate. I know Jackson is suspended for at least until until August 22nd. So at least that gives João Pedro a start. Chelsea are a team of promise. Crystal Palace look like they're going to lose Gay and Eze. And if they do that and don't replace adequately, they'll be much weaker than they were last season. Unless Eze, who is budget Temu Eze, turns out to be a find. And if that's true, they'll probably be fine. Their manager is good, so there's that, and they still have Mateta, they still have Sarr, they still have players. But they're losing key positions, and if those two players go, they will be much weaker. Everton finished the season strong under Mr. Moyes. He let go of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. They just got in Grealish. So it will be interesting to see if they carry on from that. Pickford was the best goalkeeper last season. He was the best the season before. So just choose him and forget about it. Ndiaye and Beto could be interesting players as well. Fulham are always interesting. You never know who they have or who they don't have, but they always seem to be right there in the middle of the pack, and I feel that's where they will remain this season. Robertson is injured to begin the season, so he's not going to be there for all of you who love him. So just see what you want to do. Leeds are interesting. They are back. They have the manager who used to manage Norwich. I can't remember his name right now. Faulkner? Well, anyway, he wasn't promising with Norwich, and he got them back both times and got them relegated twice. That kind of form doesn't inspire me. I believe them and Burnley are favourites to go down, but let's see. Liverpool, they've strengthened everywhere. They're not weaker than last season in spite of losing Diaz, Nunez, and Trent. Frimpong was the first person I put in my team. Salah the second. And now I'm even wondering if I should get Wirtz, because I'm seeing so many people having him. They might yet get Mr. Isak, so that's also something that be yet to be determined, and that will definitely change our projections of them. They're still favorites for the title, and they're a strong team. They have so many assets, it's going to be hard to choose. It's the kind of team where you look at and you say, I can only choose 3. I wish I could choose more. Manchester City are a variation of Liverpool in that they seem to have strengthened their team. Will it work? Last season, they just sort of imploded. Rodri is already out until the first international break. But Reinders is looking good for me. And honestly, him and Arias, who was signed by Wolves, are my favorites for being underdogs this season. Arias was so impressive for me in the World Cup Cup. You know what I'm saying. He was really impressive for me. And I was just waiting to see who would sign him. He's in Wolves now. I think he's going to be a very impressive player for them. Rangers just reminds me of like Frank Lampard. Somebody who comes from deep in the midfield and has an eye for goal. I believe he will be instrumental to whatever Pep decides, should he play him. And I think if he's given enough of a run, he will prove to be a great asset. Manchester United have signed Mbumo Sesco Cunha. Going forward, they look impressive. And I hope that it shows in the results, because I believe in terms of pricing, they have the fairest prices. At 9, Mr. Fernandes is their most expensive player. I think he should be 8.5, but that's neither here nor there. Their defenders are cheap. Goalkeeper as well, Onana, and you know he's not quite reliable. Now, on the other side, you have Newcastle, who haven't quite strengthened their team as they would have liked. They have just lost players, not replaced enough depth in their squad. And their team is going to be interesting because the last time they were in the Champions League, they could not compete on both fronts. And I believe, unless they make a couple of more signings, that we are doomed to repeat that history. So they will be an interesting team to follow. Nottingham Forest are in a similar boat, although they do have squad depth, but they have lost like Elanga. They haven't quite strengthened the team adequately, in my view. So we shall see how they will handle Europe and the Premier League. And also, we will also see if last season was a false representation of who they were and now they will regress to the mean, or if they will build on last season and be somewhere along the same level. They are one to watch. Following their footsteps are Sunderland. Sunderland have spent the second most money after Nottingham Forest being promoted. They've spent roughly 158 million. Now, this means they've brought in a ton of players, which means that, like Nottingham Forest, they are a candidate to stay up. It'll be tight, and if their team gels, they could be something interesting. If their team gels, they have a bunch of African players as well. So come Gameweek 17 to whenever the competition ends, that might be a period where they will be easy targets. Or maybe we will find that those players don't even feature anyway. That's the thing about this team. It's hard to know what their identity is currently because they're going to be testing all the players and all the combinations. Tottenham have signed a new manager, signed a couple of new players, and they are looking interesting. They want to sign Savinho, they want to sign Rodrigo. I think they will get one of those. What will that mean? It's not clear. How well will Thomas Frank's ideas transfer to Tottenham? Will their players respond well? Spurs players, it's a mixed bag. You just don't know what you're going to get. I honestly don't think it was the right decision, my opinion, for him to leave Brentford when he had a good thing. It reminds me kind of like when Moyes left Everton to go to Manchester United. He had a good thing going. But the problem in life is that you have to back yourself. But also the problem in life is that you don't know what the right bet is. And I honestly don't think this was the right bet. Tottenham are not a stable club in terms of keeping managers. Their players don't seem to respond well. Of course, he could be the man who makes all the difference and he could prove everyone wrong, everyone being me. I haven't had much doubting, but I don't think he was right to leave Brentford. I honestly hope it works, and if he can turn them into a good squad, that would be great for everyone. He needs to sort out that defense, and maybe Palhinha will help with that. West Ham, they are my underdogs for getting relegated. Them and Wolves. If Sunderland doesn't go down, or if Leeds don't go down either, because to be fair, Leeds are a strong team. If those two manage to stay up, I think West Ham and Wolves are contenders to go down, and possibly Brentford. Those three clubs, I think if one of the promoted clubs are to stay up, West Ham, Wolves, and Brentford will be the strongest candidates to go down. West Ham didn't seem to respond well to Graham Potter last season. Their preseason is fine, and I'm just hoping that I like Graham Potter and I want him to succeed. I liked what he had built at Brighton, and I'm hoping he can do something similar. West Ham. The pressure is higher, and let's just see. I'm not confident in them, but I'm more confident in them than I was last season under Lopetegui. Now, and the final team is Wolves. Wolves have lost Cunha. He was vital to everything they did. They have signed Arias, who will be impressive. I am so high on him. Wolves will be an interesting team to follow. Their manager did really well once he came in. He stabilized the team and got them clear and safe of relegation. If he builds on that, that would be great. He is the strongest of the teams I've just said who are likely to go down. So he's probably going to be ending up maybe 15, 16. And if not, probably lower. They're a dark horse for relegation, not favorites. A dark horse. If things don't go well, I could see them there. But if they go well, honestly, they could be up as high as 8. They're that confusing for me. And that's just my general vibe of the teams. Now I'm going to go over each team and their best players. In Arsenal, last season, their top 3 performers were Trossard, who got 157 points, Saliba, who got 130 points, and Saka, who got 127 points. So if you're looking for 3 Arsenal players, also Rice, who had 127 points, is somebody worth watching. Of course, they've signed Gyökeres and that will change. But I'm just giving you perspective of who Arsenal's 3 best players were last season. When it comes to Aston Villa, Watkins with 186 was their best performer. Second was Rodgers, who had 161 points, and third was Tielemans, who had 121 points. When it comes to Bournemouth, their top players were Semenyo, who had 165 points, Ivert, who had 158 points, and Evan Nilsson, who had 128 points. For Brentford, now that Mbuma's gone, Wissa was their top performing player. He had 185, Shada had 149, and Damsgaard had 131. When it comes to Brighton, we have Mitoma, who was their top performer with 145 points, Welbeck with 125, and Verbruggen, their keeper, with 103 points. Burnley is next, but I'm going to skip all promoted sides since they don't have stats for the Premier League last season. When it comes to Chelsea, no surprise who was number 1, but Cole Palmer. Number 2 was Enzo Fernandez with 135, and number 3 was Cucurella with 133. So, if you're choosing 3 players from Chelsea, start with those. When it comes to Crystal Palace, it's actually quite tight. Mateta, top performing, 150. Sarr, 149. Eze, 148. So maybe they won't miss Eze so much. Everton is quite an interesting proposition. Their top performing player was Pickford, 121 points. 158 points. Mikolenko was number 2 with 121 points. And number 3 was Tarkowski with 105 points. So I guess in some teams, defense wins. When it comes to Fulham, Iwobi was their best performer last season with 156 points. Number 2 was Raul Jimenez, 147 points. And then Leno, 115 points. When it comes to Liverpool, I guess I don't need to tell you who was number 1, but it was none other than Mo Salah. And then number 2 is Szoboszlai, and number 3 is Virgil van Dijk. So Mo Salah had 344, Van Dijk and Szoboszlai are tied with 143 points. Man City had a poor season last season, and their top performer was Haaland, who had a good season with 181 points. Of course, not his best, but still great. And then you had Mr. Vardiol, who had 153 points. And then Bernardo Silva, who had 110 points. That is poor. But that is also a function of Pep Roulette. Their most consistent players got the most points. Haaland, when available, played every game. Vardiol played virtually every game. And they're the 2 highest. Everybody else was in a rotation, and Ederson was substituted. He kept getting injured. Manchester United last season saw Mr. Bruno Fernandes as their best player with 174 points. Ahmad was their second best player with 129 points. And then you had Onana as their third best player with 120 points. When it comes to Newcastle, Isak had 211 points. Then Mr. Jacob Murphy had 159 points. And Bruno Guimaraes had 135 points. When it comes to Nottingham Forest, Wood was their best performer, had his best ever season with 200 points. Then you had Morgan Gibbs-White, who had 154 points. And then you had the goalkeeper Sells, who had 150 points. And for fun, Milenkovic had 145 points. Basically, they had a strong performer in each category, which is quite nice. When it comes to Spurs, their 3 best players were in the midfield. Brennan Johnson had a great season, 137 points. Maddison, 133. And Kulusevski, 117 points. When it comes to West Ham, Bowen had a great season, 193 points. Suchek, 126 points. Wan-Bissaka, 118 points. So you can see they didn't really perform well. outside Bowen. So he carried the team. And therefore, if there's one player you must have from West Ham, it's Bowen. When it comes to Wolves, out of the players available, Strand Larsen was their best performer with 145. And the reason I say best available because Aitnouri and Cunha have left. Left is Strand Larsen, who had 145. And then you have their goalkeeper, Jose Sa, who had 93. And Bellegarde, who had 90. And so you can understand why I'm talking about relegation favourites. The numbers are clear and they will need much more improvement for this to be a better season. Now, let's look at the first 5 game weeks of the season, because this is another way people like to choose their players, by looking at the first 5 game weeks of the season and seeing who they think they would like to have for the first 5 game weeks of the season. So, starting with Arsenal, they have Manchester United, Leeds, Liverpool, Forest, and Manchester City. Now, Manchester United look like a better team this season, but we need to actually see it. And that means this will not be an easy game. Leeds could be a wild card. We just don't know what to expect from them. In theory, they're an easy team because they've been promoted, but on the ground, let's see. Liverpool are the champions. That will be a tough game. Forest will be a tricky game. And Manchester City will be a tricky game, even though Arsenal have had favourable results against them recently. So even if you're an Arsenal fan, you must know that these are not the first 5 easiest fixtures you would choose. And because of that, would you want to put your Arsenal assets in right now or wait for this tough period to end? That's something you have to decide if you're banking on Arsenal. Aston Villa have Newcastle, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Everton, and Sunderland. Honestly, outside Newcastle, and they might be playing Newcastle without Isak, actually they're most probably going to play Newcastle without Isak, because even if he stays, he hasn't been training and he's been a bit of a menace. So they'll just reintegrate him slowly back into the team. Or maybe they'll just, but anyway, I'm rambling. Basically, what I'm saying is that these are great fixtures if you're an Aston Villa fan. Newcastle will be the toughest game, but then Brentford, Crystal Palace, Everton, and Sunderland are all winnable games. If you told me Aston Villa would win 3 out of those 5, I'd be like, oh, I thought they'd win 4, Moving on. Bournemouth have Liverpool, Wolves, Tottenham, Brighton, and Newcastle. Honestly, I don't know who Bournemouth are right now. With the players they've lost, they have made some signings, but will they be like for like? We just don't know. Liverpool will be a tough game and it will mislead us, because Liverpool would beat that last season's team, even though last season's teams would have given them much more competition. But anyway, even if Liverpool hammer them, it will not be a true reflection of Bournemouth. So don't put in too much talk about who Bournemouth are based on the result on Liverpool, both ways. Then they have Wolves, Spurs, Brighton, and Newcastle. Honestly, they could draw all, they could lose all, they could win all. That's the problem with Bournemouth. Right now, they're still quite unclear. Brentford play Forest, Villa, Sunderland, Chelsea, and Fulham. Brentford are even a strong case of I don't know who they are. They have lost their manager, they have lost key players. I don't know who their identity is. And I would encourage people to be very careful if you're choosing Brentford players, because we just don't know who they are. Brighton play Fulham, Everton, City, Bournemouth, Tottenham. Honestly, they could win 3 out of these 5 games. Burnley play Tottenham, Sunderland, Man United, Liverpool, and Forest. Outside Sunderland, it's going to be a very tough introduction to the Premier League for them. Let's see how they fare. Hopefully, they have a more pragmatic manager than Kompany was when he was at the helm last time, and maybe they'll be more competitive. Chelsea have Crystal Palace, West Ham, Fulham, Brentford, and Manchester United. The Club World Champions are possibly going to win all 5 of these games. They're going to be strong favorites. They're dark horses for the title, and I am fooled by their last 5 to 7 games. They have been very impressive, and it hasn't stopped. I believe in them fully, and I expect them to win 4 out of these 5. Crystal Palace have Chelsea, Forest, Villa, Sunderland, and West Ham. Chelsea and Aston Villa will be their toughest games, or rather Chelsea, Forest, Villa. But then you see, we don't know who Forest are right now. After the Villa game, I would get into Crystal Palace players. After they play Chelsea, Forest, and Aston Villa, that's when I would be starting to think about getting Munoz into my team. Everton. Everton have Leeds, Brighton, Wolves, Villa, Liverpool. Honestly, these are favorable fixtures. Not that they're easy for them, but it's a nice way to start the season. You start with the promoted side, and then you play Brighton, who you could get a result. Wolves, you can get a result. Aston Villa, that will be a tough game. Liverpool will definitely be their most difficult game of the 5. So if you're looking at Everton, that's not a bad idea. Fulham have Brighton, Man United, Chelsea, Leeds, and Brentford. Honestly, if you can pick the correct Fulham players, you're fine. Like I said earlier, Iwobi, Raul Jimenez, and Leno. Honestly, if you start with those three out of these 5, they can get good results. Leeds have Everton, Arsenal, Newcastle, Fulham, and Wolves. Honestly, with them, until they prove otherwise, the odds are stacked against them. And so I'd encourage you just to wait to see what they have to offer. Liverpool have Bournemouth, Newcastle, Arsenal, Burnley, and Everton. So it's a bit of a tricky start, difficult in the middle, and then it gets easier. Salah is fixture agnostic. Of course, now a lot of people are arguing, should you start with Salah? Honestly, guys, 345 points. Start with Salah. Don't even think about it. Have Salah and then remove him later. Don't do it the other way around, because when you don't have Haaland or Salah, it gets much harder to bring them into your team. Man City have Wolves, Spurs, Brighton, Man United, and Arsenal. Honestly, up until Man United, these games are all winnable. We just need to see which Manchester City shows up, if they're going to calibrate and be the dominant team they have been, or if it's going to be more of the wishy-washy team they were last season. If it's the wishy-washy team, these games are all absolutely tricky, and they could win possibly just 1 out of their 5. If it's a dominant team, they could draw 2 and win 3. Manchester United play Arsenal, Fulham, Burnley, Manchester City, and Chelsea. Honestly, 3 out of those 5 games are very difficult. It's a tough beginning for them. Fulham and Burnley will be breathers, but Fulham are no pushovers themselves. So I would encourage you to get into Manchester United, possibly after Gameweek 5. And if you're just a believer, do what you gotta do. I'm going to have maybe Ahmad because he tends to score in big games, and a bunch of these are big games. Newcastle have Villa, Liverpool, Leeds, Wolves, and Bournemouth. So last season they started well by hammering Aston Villa. If history repeats itself, it will be a good game for them, and they'll only have Liverpool to be worried about in the opening 5 fixtures. But let's see what happens with the Isak situation, and if they are able to finish this transfer window with a few signings for depth. Forest have Brentford, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Arsenal, and Burnley. Now, with them, it's a matter of, was last season a fluke and will they regress, or will they push on? They have a lot to prove, more than maybe any other team. And depending on what you believe, that will guide you. If you believe they are last season's team, then of course you have to have Wood, you have to have Morgan Gibbs-White, you have to have Sells or Milenkovic. Non-negotiable. You have to have 3 players, because this first 4-5 games, outside Arsenal, all the games are easy for them, absolutely without any competition. So, do you believe in them? That's the real question. Spurs have Burnley, Man City, Bournemouth, West Ham, and Brighton. Now, Spurs, last season was so difficult for them. It's hard to gauge who they are. Kind of like Manchester United. It's really hard to gauge who they are, and they also have to prove that they are different. They have, in Spurs' case, new signings and a new manager, which will mean maybe a more pragmatic approach to football. And let's see. And with them, even though I have Kudus in my team, I'm going to employ the wait and see. Sunderland have West Ham, Burnley, Brentford, Crystal Palace, and Aston Villa. Now with Sunderland, they have a new squad. Everything is new. It's so unclear who they are right now. And I think it will be a couple of game weeks before they stabilize. And if they're anything like Forest, their manager might be fired even before they stabilize. So just watch them closely and take them game by game. And just remember that they're a team in progress. West Ham have Sunderland, Chelsea, Forest, Spurs, and Crystal Palace. It's going to be a tricky game for them, a tricky season. They really have to beat Sunderland to get people on board and then get some sort of result against Chelsea. Well, not against Chelsea, more against Forest and Spurs. If they can get 1 win and 2 draws out of their first 4 fixtures, I think that would be an incredible start for them. If they get anything more than that, incredible. If they get less than that, they'll be instant relegation favorites for me. Wolves have Manchester City, Bournemouth, Everton, Newcastle, and Leeds. Honestly, 3 of those 5 fixtures, they can win or draw. 2 of them for me are clear losses. Which ones? I will let you decide. Now, I hope I have managed to give you a bit of a rounded view as to how to approach selecting your players for the season. Now, before I depart, let me leave you with some wisdom I have gathered myself and gathered from different forums of FPL. Well, number 1, it's quite simple. Choose good players. For example, Salah. When Salah is in front of goal, he will score. Do you believe Salah will be in front of goal? Do you believe he will score? Yes. Does it matter who the keeper is? Not really. Trust good attacking players, especially those who score. And if you see enough proof, Chris Wood got 200 points, and I'm sure that many of you who had him for maybe 3 game weeks max. Choose good attacking players. Don't make many transfers. And by that I mean transfers should really be used on either injuries or unavailability of players, or in the situation where you have underlooked or underrated a player. Like, for example, when Palmer broke out, or maybe like Chris Wood last season. Sometimes you just have to say, okay, I made a mistake. I need this person in my team. But this thing of 2-3 transfers every week, 3-4 transfers every week, it doesn't help. Bottom last of our league last season was held by a manager who made transfers absolutely every single week. And he was last by, I think, over 200 points from a guy who made his team once and left it. And so that's a good example to show you that there needs to be a balance in making the right moves and just making transfers every week. The balance is to understand why you are making the change. Number 3 is the gap in the Premier League isn't as big as it seems. And therefore, it means that anybody can score against anybody. Pickford, whose team finished in the bottom half of the table, had the best performance as a goalkeeper in terms of points. What does that tell you? That Everton were great defensively. And if you remember earlier on, their best performers were defenders. So what does this mean? It means that you'll be here thinking that Arsenal, if you have Raya, you'll keep the most clean sheets. You're wrong. Factually, you are wrong. You'll be thinking, if you have Saliba, you have the best defender. You are still wrong, because he wasn't. And this, I guess, enhances the other point, which is stay with strong attacking options. Of course, now this season has the new CBIT thing for defensive-oriented players, and that might change things, but we will know after this season. And so, unless it's the promoted teams, you shouldn't really be changing your player against a different player. Am I making sense? I mean, like, for example, you shouldn't change. Let's say if your striker is Wood, you shouldn't bring in Wood only because he's playing against maybe Leeds. Wood will score. He didn't get 200 points by scoring against the relegated side. He scored against everybody. And he has a propensity to score against everybody. And don't make your selection that way as a default, unless it's the relegation teams. Otherwise, choose the best player with the best opportunity, if that makes sense. I hope I'm not contradicting myself. Number 4, and this one hurts. Press conferences can let you down drastically. So don't trust 100% what you hear the managers say. For all you know, he might have his own fantasy team and he wants to mess you guys up. But mostly, they're more focused on their real team than our fantasy team. So they will say whatever they need to be strategic about whatever they're trying to do. They're not really concerned about our fantasy teams and our fantasy whatever. Something else. Whatever you see in preseason, take it with a pinch of salt. For example, João Pedro has had a great preseason, but if you played fantasy last season, you know how much of a letdown João Pedro was. He was a streaky player. Now, I'm not saying maybe with better players that will change, but the facts are the facts. Preseason isn't everything. It's just mainly to get fitness and match preparation, not more statistics. Use it for fitness more than performance. Something that has really hurt me is like last season I started with, well, I didn't start with him, but I had Trent and he was 7. And then Liverpool could not keep a clean sheet and it took forever for him to kick on. And by the time he kicked on, I was really out of him and done with him. Basically what I'm saying is, be very reluctant to spend big on your defense. It is much better spent on midfield and attacking. Midfield was king last season. So do not compromise on a good midfielder for a good defender. Get the good midfielder. Be wary of travel. And by that I mean Champions League, international break, AFCON, and the gap in between fixtures. Because that will have a likelihood of tired players or of rotation or of poor performances. And you need to be aware of this. Like in the previous seasons, Salah after Africa Cup has traditionally been a mess. And he's older now. And with all that travel and intensity of the competition, that could happen again. So be aware. And a good example also might be Chelsea this season. They've had a very long season, a short break and a quick preseason. Their players might not be well rested. They have a big squad, so that means rotation. But it might also mean rotation because your favorite player is unfit. If you've played fantasy for a while, then you know this to be true. There was a time when Vincent Kompany was in Manchester City, and if he was not there, they were doing nothing. There was a time when Salah and Van Dijk got injured. Liverpool were unable to perform. Last season, you saw the collapse of City without Rodri. You saw how Arsenal struggled without Saka. When a core player is unavailable, the whole team suffers. Keep that in mind. And of course, that means if multiple players are missing, then teams will perform even worse. Like when Leeds got relegated, they had so many injuries and absolutely no depth. So when Bamford went down, Dallas went down, Ayling went down, Alvin Phillips went down, done. Now, this is a rule that I've learned that is a bit confusing, and you're usually on one side or the other. Spend money on your first 11 and ditch your bench. That is how I used to play. And then I got burnt because I had 4.0s who weren't playing. And then I decided to go for a more balanced team. And then I had this problem of choice, the paradox of choice, where it was like, I don't know who to play because my bench is strong, my team is strong. And I ended up having many fixtures in game weeks when I had 20 points, 30 points on the bench. There is a balance between that, and I have yet to achieve it, and I hope you will figure that one out. When in doubt, captain the most popular player. Wherever possible, don't make transfers for goalkeepers. It's just, why? When making transfers, don't make a transfer for just game week 1, like now. Make it with the future in mind. Look at game week 1 to 5. What do you see? Or if 5 is too many, game week 3. Maybe every 3 game weeks. But just 1 week at a time. Even though that is the slogan for the show. Don't make a transfer 1 game week at a time. Unless it's game week 35, 36, 37, 38, you know. Right now you've got 36 game weeks, 37 game weeks left. So think of those. Do not let your favorite team, doubt your judgment. Like, for example, I have a friend who captained Højlund pretty much the whole of last season because he's a Manchester United fan. Of course, you know that's a bad idea. But he's an extreme example, but that's literally what he did. And he had Salah in his team. He refused to have Haaland because he hates Manchester City. So he didn't captain Salah because he hates Liverpool as a Manchester United fan. And he had Højlund. That is an extreme example, but that is what happened last season. And if you listen back, I would always tell you, and one person captained Hoyland. He was that guy. Don't be that guy. And by that I mean, fantasy football is not a team, it's not a game where you support your favorite club. Unless your favorite club is Liverpool and you're just lucky that Salah is amazing, don't just captain your favorite player in your team. That is not a solid strategy. And that is why they let you choose 3 players from different teams to explore and to learn who does well. Learn who does well and believe it and choose them and reward them with captaincy. As much as possible, try to make your changes either very early or very late, because you know the kind of person you are. And by that I mean, you might not be able to be making your team at Saturday at 12:30, or in this case Friday, because maybe you're out the night before, or maybe because of work, or maybe because your life is just lifing. If you know you're the type of person who can't be disciplined enough to make your team decisions late, make them early. And if you have the discipline, make it as close as possible to the end of the transfer deadline. Let me also say it again. Be reserved with your transfers. Don't make 5 transfers a week or something crazy like that. Save them up and use them. Try as much as possible to minimize the hits that you will take. This season, we have 2 sets of chips. Look at the game weeks and plan accordingly. They're almost making it free. This season, you can really strategize well. Use it to your advantage. And remember that these chips will expire after December. So you will start with a new set. You won't be able to carry them on. And with those tips and tricks, I am hoping that you will have a strong campaign. Now, I believe in you so much that I believe that one of us will challenge for the whole FPL title this season. And just to inspire you, let me tell you what the prizes are this season. If you are number 1, you get a 7-night break in the UK, inclusive of 2 VIP hospitality at 2 2026-27 Premier League matches. Then you'll get a selection of experiences at popular UK tourist attractions. You have travel and 7 nights accommodation. You win a Microsoft Surface laptop, 4 hobby boxes of Topps Premier League, Chrome, Merlin, Pristine and Finest. You get a Puma training top or hoodie. You get a Puma football. You get an official Premier League replica shirt, which is probably going to be the one for the team you say you support. You get a EA Sports game, formerly known as FIFA. You get an official FPL certificate. And then you get a bundle consisting of a t-shirt, mug, and thermal ball, stress ball, pen, pad, and keyring. If you are number 2, you get 2 hospitality tickets at 1 Premier League game season next season. You get travel and 3 nights accommodation, and then the same. If you're 3rd place, you get just the goodies without the travel. You don't get to go anywhere, but you get all the goodies that were mentioned for number 1. Isn't that motivation to win? Anyway, I hope that lets you dream. I wish you all a great season. See you on the pitch. Bye.